Right, ladies and gentlemen, what a horrid weekend. And for those of you who don't know, a terrorist attack occurred yesterday in Sydney, where a Hanukkah gathering was targeted by Islamic extremists. Now, for some time, I keep talking about the Israeli Jewish question. Everybody labels me a shill of some variety, not understanding that the Israeli question, the Jewish question in the West, is the litmus test of the sanity of the West. What we are seeing is that open borders and mass migration is destroying Western values, and we have now seen it in real time in, of all places, Australia. And don't take my word for it, watch this clip which explains to you exactly what the problem is.
Australia presents itself as a safe democracy, but the question is, why does Hezb Tahrir still operate freely here? In the UK, it was banned on 19th of January 2024 under the Terrorism Act. In Australia, it remains untouched. What threshold has not been met? Or is there simply no political will? Hezb Tahrir is a transnational Islamist organization founded in 1953 in Jerusalem. Its declared goal is the re-establishment of a caliphate, erasing national borders and imposing a single Islamic system. It rejects democracy. It rejects secular constitutions and expands through indoctrination and recruitment. On the 9th of October 2023, the Sydney Opera House was lit in blue and white. Crowds surged forward, Israeli flags burned, flares lit the harbour, and police intervened. The image was global, and the message was clear. Extremist narratives had already found ground. The Executive Council of Australian Jewry recorded 1,713 anti-Semitic incidents in 2024. This is the highest figure in Australia's history. It is a statistic of escalation, not of background noise. Hezb Tahrir Australia mobilized again in October 2024, pushing the October 7th outrage. It was a rally in Sydney. Police issued warnings, the group carried on, and influence expanded. Agitation embedded itself even deeper. Names enter the frame. Senator Fatma Payman faced headlines over donations to the One Path network. The storm was loud, the real silence was elsewhere. While the public looked at distractions, Hezb Tahrir spread ideology unchecked, refining its reach. The Australian Criminal Code holds the power to list organizations that promote or encourage terrorism. The UK used its law. Australia has not. Each day of hesitation is a gift to those who weaponize doubt, who recruit through ambiguity, and who thrive on delay. The conclusion is unavoidable. Australia has created space for Hezb Tahrir to shape communities, recruit openly, and bend narratives. The question is no longer whether they should be banned. The real question is, why are...
Now, as you can see, he referred to an event on the 8th of October in 2023. This was one day after the October 7th massacres, where in Australia they chanted, "Gas the Jews." In fact, you can watch that right here. Now, it's important to understand that all of this is being done in the name of Islam. People can sanitize it and say, well, it's not, it's just extremists. But unfortunately, all the extremists globally are doing what they are doing in the name of Islam. There were attacks at the weekend in Brown's University. There were events across Europe, all in the name of Free Palestine. And Free Palestine is now becoming the new global terrorist organization. Now, the problem really is that Western democracies have lost faith in their own values, with many individuals who are rather nutty in the head, all chanting, "Globalize the Intifada," like they don't really understand what that means. In fact, here, have a watch. Here is an individual doing just that. Now, these liberals who have grown up in privilege and have never seen any real hardship are quick to chant, globalize the Intifada, not understanding what that actually means. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go through this story, and I am not going to cut any of the footage. I've set the groundwork. Let's go through what actually happened and talk about it. So the event occurred in Sydney, where around 1,000 people gathered at Bondi Beach for the Hanukkah by the Sea celebration. Now, for those of you who don't know, Hanukkah has just started. Hanukkah is an 8-day celebration which celebrates the retaking of the first temple after the Greek invasion. Now, this specific celebration in Sydney was organized by the local Jewish community, specifically the Chabad communities, who act as an outreach program to help Jews be more Jewish. It's not a pro-Israeli group. It is just there to encourage Jews to be more Jewish. Right, so families, children, rabbis, and community leaders were obviously present because it was a community event, a celebration. Candles were meant to be lit to mark the first night of Hanukkah, and even after the event, after many individuals were gunned across Sydney, individuals still, in defiance of the terrorist act, continued to light the candles in their homes. Now, the event was open to the public. It was non-political. It was religious and cultural only. In fact, you can actually watch people enjoying the celebrations right here.
Okay, thank you.
How many?
One, it's enough. Just to feel the Hanukkah.
Now, shortly after nightfall, gunfire erupted suddenly near the gathering, and many individuals from across the bay could hear gunfire across Sydney. In fact, have a watch. Witnesses described automatic or semi-automatic gunfire, with many individuals panicking and screaming and running in all directions. In nearby restaurants, people were hiding, not really sure where the gunshots were coming from. Have a watch.
Shit! Fuck!
Now, shots were fired from an elevated position, giving the attackers a clear line of sight over the crowd. So they had actually given themselves a strategic position in which to cause the maximum amount of damage. Again, have a watch. Now, as parents shielded their children and families were separated in the chaos, one father described diving onto his 5-year-old daughter, believing that his young child had been killed after discovering a stranger had shielded her instead. So individuals were sacrificing each other for the young, and yet still many children were murdered in the crossfire. The panic that erupted and the fear that were in people could be evident everywhere, with individuals attempting to seek cover because all they could hear is gunfire, whilst they could see individuals dropping dead around them. Have a watch.
Там же полицейские.
Кто? Какие полицейские нахуй? Там... Вон полицейский.
Так чувствую.
Get on the ground!
All this whilst the shooters casually walked around shooting individuals indiscriminately. Again, have a watch.
Oh my god, get down, boys, get down. Oh my god. Fireworks. Hey, stay there.
Now, between 15 and 16 people were killed, and this included Jewish civilians, at least one Chabad rabbi, and the primary attacker who was shot by police. Dozens were wounded, with reports ranging from 27 seriously injured to over 40 hospitalized, including 2 police officers. Victims ranged in age from children as young as 10 to elderly attendees in their 80s. This becomes Australia's deadliest mass shooting in 3 decades. In fact, I would encourage you to see the footage of the individuals dead. It is your duty to pay attention to what globalizing the Intifada actually looks like. All these pro-Palestinian Intifada wannabes, this is what your chants result in. Have a watch.
Let's kill him.
He's dead. Good.
They have to, but fucking move. Hey, take a walk, bro, take a walk. Get off!
Now, before we get the inevitable denials, which we know is going to occur because it occurs every single time, the suggestions will be, well, it was just an act of criminality. It wasn't actually a targeted event targeting Jews, but it was. In fact, just before the news gets lost, I'm going to replay the exact words from Sky. Watch.
This was an attack on the Jewish community, one that the authorities have now labelled a terrorist incident, a terror attack on the Jewish community here in Bondi, which is it's a very strong Jewish community here in Bondi, a very strong, very proud Jewish community. Right up the street from here, there are several synagogues, and behind me in the park where people were attacked was a Hanukkah festival going on here, the first night of Hanukkah around the world being celebrated by Jewish people. There was an event here called Hanukkah by the Sea, and that was what was targeted by these two men with guns.
So again, we can see that Jews were targeted by foreign individuals who were brought into Australia by a liberal government who do not believe in border control, and as a result, these individuals' ideology came with them. So who were the two perpetrators? Well, the perpetrators were a father and son, aged 50 and 24.
I can say that we are not looking for a further offender. We are satisfied that there were two offenders involved in yesterday's incident. One is deceased, the second is in critical but stable condition in hospital at the moment. The offenders are a 50-year-old and 24-year-old male who are father and son.
The father was killed at the scene during a shootout with police, and the son was shot, critically injured, and has now been taken to custody.
Fuck yeah! Yeah, they got him.
There was a suggestion that potentially there could have been a third shooter, but this has not been verified. Now, the father's actually a licensed firearm holder in Australia. He has legally owned 6 firearms for over a decade, and investigators believe that multiple weapons were used in the attack. Now, this again becomes very interesting because the news was that he had actually been known to the Australian police as a potential terror suspect. In other words, an individual who may, at a future stage, commit a terrorist attack. Now, why this also becomes interesting is that the mother of the son has denied the son was involved. She says he's a good boy, he'd never do any of this. In fact, you can read on screen her response. Now, a civilian bystander, Ahmed, a 43-year-old fruit shop owner with no firearms training, actually ran towards the gunfire, and he tackled and disarmed one of the gunmen, wrestling away the rifle.
Oh! C'est un malade. Oh non, gros! Oh! Ouais, mais il y a son pote, il va se faire tirer dessus. Il est trop con, le mec qui a l'arme. Le mec est hyper courageux. Oh. Wesh. Oh l'enculé, il a pris une deuxième arme. En gros, il a récupéré l'arme du mec qui... Tu sais, il l'avait pris dans sa main là.
Mais il y en a un deuxième là, ils sont tous les deux sur le bridge.
Oui, oui, j'ai vu, j'ai vu.
Tu les vois les deux?
Ouais.
Mais gars, je comprends pas ce qui se passe, gars. Je suis terrorisé.
Mec, c'est un attentat, frère. Eh, il y en a un, il est en dessous du bridge.
Mais genre, c'est un attentat devant nos yeux?
Ouais.
Gars, une minute de plus, on était dehors.
Now, Ahmed was shot twice during the struggle and actually required surgeries, but his actions were widely credited with saving lives of many. And Australian leaders publicly called him a hero, and fundraisers for him have exceeded 350,000 Australian dollars. Now, authorities declared the attack an anti-Semitic terror attack, although it's important to understand that in many of the official government statements, they refused to use the words Jewish and terrorist for logical reasons, because they don't want it to be seen as a religious attack, even though it blatantly was. Now, news was that potentially a bomb had also been left by the attackers in their car. In fact, you can watch that right here.
As part of the investigation and shortly after the shooting occurred, police located a vehicle in Campbell Parade at Bondi, which we believe has several improvised explosive devices. We have our rescue bomb disposal unit there at the moment working on that.
Now, media reports have come out that claim that Islamic State flags were found in the attacker's vehicle. We can't actually substantiate that yet because it hasn't been confirmed by the police. Intelligence agencies acknowledged that the son had come to their attention years earlier, though no active threat had been identified at the time. So much for the mother saying he was a good boy. Now, police raided multiple properties linked to the suspects, and investigations continue into whether extremist networks or ideological encouragement played a role. In other words, are they part of a greater network? Well, the answer to that should clearly be yes. They were part of a greater network, and that network is Islam. Globalizing the Intifada, remember? Islam. We cannot hide away from what globalizing the Intifada now means. Now, the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, described the attack as pure evil, anti-Semitism, and terrorism, and flags were lowered in half-mast nationwide. High-visibility policing were deployed at Jewish sites underneath Operation Shelter, and a counter-terrorism investigation was launched underneath Operation Aquarius. Albanese avoided direct questions on whether government rhetoric or policy failures had contributed to rising anti-Semitism, specifically Australia's recognition of a Palestinian state, which was done for nothing more than political point scoring. We saw the marches through Sydney of radicalized individuals all chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. What did they think this meant? Now, some individuals have suggested that Iran was behind the attack, but again, we cannot confirm. But it is difficult to see the attack as not being nothing more than just another Islamic extremist in the West. There are so many examples, but again, I must stress, this is what globalizing the Intifada looks like. Now, many Israeli leaders, which included Benjamin Netanyahu and President Isaac Herzog and senior ministers, condemned the attack as part of a global surge in anti-Semitism. And they accused Western governments, including Australia, of allowing anti-Semitic rhetoric to flourish. And this is true. We are seeing this escalate in London, Paris, the Netherlands. There are displays of this across the West. And these are not Western values. What we are seeing in real time is what the importation of mass migration is doing to the West, and specifically to the ethics and political culture of those nations. We are seeing the West die in real time. Now, Netanyahu linked the climate to political messaging around Israel and Palestine. And again, lots of people go, why do you keep focusing on Israel so much? This is why. It is the litmus test that is destroying the West. World leaders, including Macron and Trump, issued condemnations and condolences to the victims of those killed in the attack. Jewish communities worldwide increased security around Hanukkah events. This is what it means to be a practicing Jew, to go to your synagogue with prison levels of security around it to ensure your own safety. And this has led many Jewish organizations to stress that the attack did not happen in isolation. Many groups globally have warned for months of threats, harassment, anti-Semitic protests, and chants like globalizing the Intifada all have been ignored. We have now seen attacks in Manchester, we've seen attacks in London, we've seen attacks in America, we've seen attacks globally from these same perpetrators time and time again. One event will occur in the UK to a mosque, and they will increase millions to security to those individuals. This is nothing more than appeasement. It is nothing more than activism, attempting to get the vote of the individuals that you seek the vote from. But when these warnings are given to the leaders of the states to which they are given to, we are told time and time again that they are not just an attack on Jews, but they are an attack on public religious life itself, as if to minimize the impact on that specific community. And that was why I wanted to play the video clip of them saying this was an attack on Jews before this is sanitized. Now, in South Africa, the Department of International Relations issued condemnations and condemned the violence, though I would stress that to date there has been zero comment from Cyril Ramaphosa or Pandor or the gift to the givers. I wonder why. Now, in response, all local Jewish communities have had to increase their security, but it's important to understand this isn't about policing. It's about rhetoric, political signaling, and moral. The central warning here is you do not get to act shocked of the violence if you ignore the warnings before it time and time again. Everyone in the West understands something. You are next. They are not going to stop. These individuals will not stop with their ideology after the Jewish community has left. Once it is done, they will move on to the next target, which may be you. Let me know what you think in the comment sections below.